Happy Tuesday, everyone. We are going to have a fun little work set coming your way. It's going to be a little on the longer side, but the beeps and the time will guide you. It will guide you. It's going to be a good time. So before we get to all that stuff on the far side, let's talk about what's to come. We have plank walkout, 3 to 5 at a 1 to 3 second hold in that extended and in that plank position. So you're going to hold on either end of the movement. Forearm plank with side toe tap for 20 seconds of just nice steady flow. Into a humeral glide to knee push-up for 3 to 5. Plank lean at 10 alternating and a 1 to 2 second hold per side. We're going to talk about why we're going to do that because it's going to build into one of our movements coming up shortly. 2 rounds of that just to get things primed and ready. We're going to move down to a lower body focus, which is going to be goblet squat, 3 to 5 reps at a 303 tempo, so 3 down, 3 up. Into a sumo squat hold, 10 to 20 seconds of just holding in the bottom of that position, opening up those hips, feeling that balanced position through the feet. Dumbbell tempo thruster for 3 to 5 at a 3 second eccentric. So we're going to use that eccentric in the squat. So it's going to be 3 seconds down in the front squat, stand press. 3 seconds down in the front squat, stand press. From there, narrow stance squat hold. We are going to do a 10 to 20 second hold there as well, just to open up those ankles, those shins, all that good stuff. 2 to 3 rounds, taking it down. We're going to do any practice of any of the movements that we need to, that we haven't touched on in the work set. Our workout today is an on the minute per 7 rounds. Ooh, yeah. I'm going to have some different round options on the work set in the workout description if you'd like to take down a little less volume. But our work set today, minute number 1, new movement for most. We're going to work on the Renegade Row, and that's where we're going to want to really hone in that plank lean. And we'll describe that, play with it, show you how we can play around and tweak it every once in a while. But we're going to work that Renegade Row for 20 seconds aside. So you'll have a chance to work that row for 20 seconds. You'll have 10 seconds to switch and transition. And then you'll have a chance to do 20 seconds on the other side, which will again leave you with 10 seconds of transition before the minute changes into the next phase. Minute number 2, you're going to do 10 to 15 pike sit-ups, and there's a range there, so I want you to leave yourself with a little bit of space on either end. If you're looking at me going, Dave, 10 takes me more than a minute, then we're going to give you guys at least 45 to 50 seconds of work to give yourself, again, that 10 seconds transition to the top of the minute so we can transition to the next exercise. After that, again, we get to hit that Renegade Row again. Oh, yes! So 20 seconds again per side. So 20 seconds transition, 20 seconds, 10-second rest. And then we're going to finish off with minute number 4, which is going to be dumbbell thruster for 10, 5 per side if you're doing a single. And then you're going to do 5 push-ups or a number of push-ups that's going to allow you to have about 10 seconds or 5 seconds to the top of the minute. So lots of work to get done today, lots of variance in this work set. And we'll have some fun with it. We'll get ourselves ready to go, warm up, and get a Tuesday rocking. Okay, let's get our feet under those hips. Let's take the arms big and tall up overhead. We're going to give ourselves a little shrug. We're going to come back down and bring both hands down behind the neck. Ribs come in a bit. We're going to reach through the elbow and then reach through the other elbow and just take it back and forth for a couple reps. Working on that scapular control. One more time, reach, come down, and then stretch those hands above. Then we're going to shrug, and come back down, and then open up to that T. We're going to turn our hands in, turn them up, turn them in, turn them up, and turn them in, and turn them up. Big stretch, and all the way down to the floor. We're going to touch our toes. We're going to walk up our shins. We're going to come down, plant both hands. We're going to step back into our nice plank position. We're going to pull the ribs and hips in, press the shoulders. We're going to pull back into our down dog. So reaching those hips back and up. We're going to come back into that plank. We're going to pull those ribs in, press back into that down dog. Come back into that plank. And one more time, pulling everything in, press back into that down dog. And then come back into that plank. From here, we'll step that left foot up. We're going to take the inside hand all the way up. We're going to bend to 90 and then reach straight ahead. Pull back, straight ahead, pull back, and straight ahead, and pull back. Reach outside hand is going to reach up, big stretch. Plant that hand, step back. Down dog, reach. Come back into your plank. Step the other foot up. Inside hand is going to reach way up to the sky. Bend at the 90. Reach straight ahead. Pull back. Straight ahead. Pull back. Straight ahead. Pull back. Reach up. Plant that hand. Outside hand is going to reach way up. Plant that hand down. Step back. Into that down dog. Reaching those hips. Come back into our plank. Tiptoe those feet all the way up. We're going to roll ourselves up. Big stretch. Clasping our fingers. Big press and reach. Press and reach. Oh yeah. Come on down with those hands. Let's get you fired up. All right. Pause the video if you want to take down any wrist work, any extra kind of movement, some gentle warm up. Pause the video, take that down for yourself. Come join me. I'm going to walk you through that first phase, which is going to kickstart off with our plank walkout. So I'm going to turn profile so you guys can see a little bit better from the side. I'm going to get set up in my plank position. So my feet nice and pulled together. I'm going to pull my ribs in, pressing my shoulders up a bit, nice and set through that back position. From here, I'm going to walk my hands out to where I can still maintain that good shoulder position, that good hollow position, and then walk my hands back in. Now, from here, we can also work this from the knees. So if you're like, yeah, from the toes I can take like a step or two, all right? If you'd like to experience a little longer walkout, we can take some pressure off the shoulders. We get set up in that good plank first, so we pull that rib and hip in, press the shoulder up, lower the knees down, and from this knee plank, I'm going to walk my hands out, maintaining that hollow, walk my hands back in, and then continue on from there. So it gives me a chance to experience that slightly longer walkout than if I could just go for my toes. Neither is better nor worse, it just gives you a different feel. All right, so play, experiment, see where it takes you, and see how it feels today. After that, we're going to go into our forearm plank with a side toe tap. And you can choose again to do this just holding a forearm plank. If you're like, forearm plank is hard enough for me, that's fine. All right, that's fine. If you want to add in this toe tap, awesome. I'm going to go head on so you can see where my legs go. My elbow stacks underneath my shoulder. I'm going to press through those forearms first, stepping my feet back into my good forearm plank. So tucking through, pressing through the forearms. From here, I'm going to take my toe out, touch on the side, come back in. Touch, back in. You can also take it as short or as long as you'd like. The kicker here is we're trying to stay in that nice flat position. So we have to watch out for as I take my toe, my hips popping up into this kind of down dog dolphin kind of position. We want to make sure we're staying flat, touching, staying flat, and touching. So we're just moving that leg that's moving out to the side, regardless of how close or far it is. We're just taking that leg, and that's the only thing that moves. Okay? So take your time with that, experience, have fun. If you're like, nah, I'm not going to do the toe tap, I'm just going to hold that forearm plank, hold that forearm plank for 20 seconds, or drop to the knees, hold the knee forearm plank, and work that as well. Now, moving from that forearm plank, we're going to lay on the floor. We're going to work on that Humeral glide to knee push-up. So our hands are going to come underneath of the elbow, so they're down by the chest, and they're just a little bit spaced out from the shoulder. My ribs and hips are going to get pulled in eventually, but first things first, we're going to pull the shoulders forward in that Humeral glide. Then I'm going to pull them back, keeping that elbow stacked over my wrist. I'm going to pull my ribs and hips in, press into that nice knee plank, holding that position for a beat to make sure I'm set, lowering forward and down, maintaining that tension in that shoulder position, and then resting and resetting. So I'll pull the shoulders, I'll pull them back, ribs, hips, press, and then I can also add in a 3, 2, 1 tempo, or I could add in a longer tempo if I want to, but I can add in a tempo if you'd like to build some of that eccentric strength. Now, if pushing up is still really tough and breaking through that mid-body. What we can work on is that humeral glide, pulling back, ribs and hips. I press and hold in that 1 or 2 inch plank, holding that position, and then I lower with control. So I want to make sure that when I'm doing that I'm playing around with the height that allows me to maintain that good core position, so I'm not pushing and holding a broken position. All right, and I can come up as high as I need to, but we want to make sure we're still in that good locked in part in terms of that core. Last but not least in this work set, we're going to come back to our plank leans, because the plank lean is super important in this work set today. So I want you guys to really focus on staying square through the shoulders and just shifting your weight over to that hand. So there's a few things we can play with here, and I'm going to stay facing the camera for this one for today. Hands are going to be under the shoulders. Feet are together, and they can be a little bit apart too if we need some balance. But we pull the ribs and hips in, we press the shoulders up, and I can either lean keeping both hands flat, or I can lean coming up so this hand kind of loosens a little bit, but I'm staying square in my shoulders and my hips. So I'm not going this way through my hips, I'm shifting everything through my upper body, and this kind of comes with. So really take the time to kind of experiment with that. Feel that engagement through each lean, giving yourself that 1 to 2 second pause, because they will come in handy later on with that Renegade Row. Quick little recap for you guys. We have our plank walkout for 3 to 5 at a 1 to 3 second hold per position, the plank and the walkout. Forearm plank with side toe tap for 20 seconds, or forearm plank, knee or toe for 20 seconds. Humeral glide to knee push-up for 3 to 5. Plank lean for 10 alternating reps, 1 to 2 seconds. Remembering to reset those shoulders and really focus in on that nice square body to the floor. 2 rounds of that, take it down, pause the video, come join me for a little lower body love. All right, so we're gonna start warming up that lower body with some squatting. If you'd like to start unloaded, you're more than welcome to, but our first movement on the list is our goblet squat. So we're gonna get our regular squat stance going. Dumbbell's gonna be held under the chin, nice and close. So my feet are in my regular squat stance, toes slightly turned out. I'm staying nice and upright and tall, and I'm gonna pull my hips to the heels. Not necessarily in range, but as a target. And my knees are gonna track my toes. I'm staying nice and upright, my weight's through my midfoot, and I'm gonna push through that midfoot to stand tall. So I take the hips to the heels, knees track the toes, I stay midfoot balanced, and I'm trying to stay as upright as I can. So my goal is to stay as tall and vertical in my squat as I can. After my goblet squat or air squat, I'm going to move into a squat hold, and I'm going to go into a sumo stance. So I'm going to go wider than my regular stance, and the only thing that's going to change in comparison to my goblet squat and my sumo squat is I'm going to put a little bit more attention into pushing my knees out. Not so much that my feet roll open, but so that my knees stay tracking the toes. Because with this wider stance, if I don't push my knees out or make a special effort to, my knees are going to collapse inwards just because of the wider stance. So really focus on that push-up. Nice and tall, my hips are going to go to the same location. They're going to go towards the heels. So I'm going to take the hips back and down towards my heels, knees go out, tracking my toes, my feet are flat, and my chest is tall the entire time. So the same focus as when I do my goblet squat as my sumo squat. The only kicker is we're holding in the bottom. So make sure that you're only holding for as long as you can come out of the bottom in a good position. So don't hold right to the bitter ends. We're falling over. We're using our hands on our quads to get up. Make sure we can stand with good squat mechanics as well. After the sumo squat hold, we're going to move into a tempo thruster. So I'm going to clean the dumbbell up to my shoulders. And if you're using 2 dumbbells, you can do this with 2, or you can do 3 to 5 per side. So what we're going to focus on is that good squat position, so normal squat stance. Dumbbell head is resting on the shoulder, and the elbow is up and out in that good front rack position. We're doing the tempo portion of the squat, and we're going to stand press with the rest. So it's going to be a 3 second lower. 3, 2, 1, and we stand dry. We're going to come down to the shoulder. 3, 2, 1. Stand press. We come back down. 3, 2, 1. Stand press. And you can smooth this absorption of the dumbbell into the squat. Just know that the squat is going to be 3 seconds down. Why? Because we want to build that good foundation for the thruster. With a good front squat will come a good opportunity to drive that dumbbell into the best possible overhead position you can, efficiently and effectively. So really focus in on that good squat, making sure we're focusing on those key squat mechanics that we talked about earlier, and just really honing in that form for when we start going a little faster under fatigue in the work set. After that, we're going to do one more hold, which is going to be a narrow squat hold. So we're in our regular stance. We're going to come anywhere inside that stance to create a narrow stance. We've been talking about this the past week, about that narrow stance may change day to day, and or even time of day to time of day. So keep that in mind. It's okay if it's a little wider than yesterday, because you might be a little stiffer today, or you might be doing it a little earlier in the day. The body hasn't had enough time to kind of heat up to get going yet. It might be just a little stiffer. You got to give it some time. So don't worry about if it's not the same every day. We just want it somewhere in between, inside that regular stance. Same rules apply to our sumo. We're going to hold the bottom position as deep as we can maintain good squat mechanics, and we're also only going to hold the bottom for as long as we can come out of it well. So we want to make sure we're entering and exiting the same way. Good squat mechanics all the way through. Quick little recap, we have our goblet squat or air squat, 3 to 5 reps at a 303 tempo, sumo squat hold for 10 to 20 seconds, dumbbell tempo thruster for 3 to 5 at a 3-second eccentric in the squat, narrow squat hold for 10 to 20 seconds, 2 to 3 rounds, get those legs going, get that thruster movement honed in, and then we're going to bust out some practice of a few key movements. So pause the video, take down that lower half, come join me. We're going to talk about the movements of the workout. We're going to put together a little practice round. So what we have for you guys today is kind of a new movement for most, which is called the Renegade Row. The Renegade Row today is going to consist of 1 dumbbell at a time. So if you are using 2, you can use 2 and hold them both at the bottom, but we're only going to work with 1 row at a time for 20 seconds. So I'm going to grab a second dumbbell. I'll show you what that looks like so you can see both variations of this movement. Now, with both dumbbells out, we have them set up underneath of our shoulders so they're nice and set in a good position for us to do a plank. So what we do is we get ourselves set up, holding the dumbbells, good and stacked with those wrists. My feet can be a little wider in a squat stance for stability and balance. They can even go into kind of a straddle position if we need to for balance. I don't suggest feet right together because you will get very tippy. So I'd say at least hip to squat stance would be very proficient in this movement. So what you're going to do for 20 seconds, you are going to set that good hollow, that good position of plank, and you're going to pull that dumbbell into the rib, put it back down. Into the rib, back down. Into the rib, back down. So we're doing our bent row in a plank. So it's very important that we shift our weight just a little bit like our plank lean so we can allow ourselves to pull that dumbbell up. So you'll notice when I start this, I shift a bit so I'm more balanced on this arm, pull, down, pull, down. So there's a little bit of freedom in that arm to lift so I'm stable enough to row into that low rib. Now if you don't have 2 dumbbells, that's fine. We'll get rid of that dumbbell. And the only kicker is your hand will be on the floor and the other hand will be on the dumbbell. So we'll get set, same idea, pull, down, pull, down. The only kicker is at 20 seconds, we'll just switch sides, roll it over to the other side, set up my plank, pull, down, pull, down. So we're working on that good pull. It's not fast. I want you guys to keep in mind we're still executing a good positioned row. My body body staying nice and square to the floor. We're just pulling that hand into the rib. Now, if you're not comfortable doing this with load, what you can do is work on, very similar, kind of a shoulder touch. So we're going to get set up in that same plank, and we're just going to pull that hand to the hip. Pull that hand to the hip. Still in that row position, but you're going to work on just an empty-handed row. So you'll be working that good plank in that three-point plank. You just pull that hand to simulate the row, put it back on the floor. Pull on the floor. So a couple options there for that Renegade Row. It's kind of a fun one. It's different. We need to make sure that we're maintaining a strong shoulder position in our plank and a tight midsection. So if we feel those pieces start to kind of deteriorate, take a knee, take a moment, reset your position, and then have at her again. All right? So that's the Renegade Row. So what I'd suggest in the practice round, I'm going to put up on the workout description, bust an elbow 3 to 5 per side, just to get a feel for balance and position. Then we're going to move into the Pike Sit Up. So the Pike Sit Up is a sit-up that we use quite often. It's a nice one. I really like these because they offer a nice hamstring stretch at the same as getting a good core exercise and sit-up technique in there. So my toes are going to be pointed. I'm going to lay on the floor, touch my hands above my head. I'm going to use my arms as a little bit of momentum and touch my toes. Come back down, sit up, touch, touch, and touch. Now, if you need a little assistance, you can anchor your toes. You can pinch a dumbbell in between your feet to give you a little bit of assistance. If you have like a chair, you can pinch your toes on the chair and just gives you a little anchor point. Key thing here is we're trying to keep the legs as straight as we can and only taking it as far down as our range of motion will allow. Practice a couple of reps of those. Don't overkill them because you have quite a few of them to do in the work set. So take them down, see how they feel, just get a nice feel for them. In the next minute of work, we come back to that Renegade Row, but in our practice round, we don't need to practice it more than just a couple reps per side just to get a good feel. Then we're going to move into our dumbbell thruster for 10 reps, 5 per side. All right, so we've already practiced that dumbbell thruster, but this time in the practice round, what I would suggest doing is not using the tempo, using it as a speed that you're going to like in the work set, and work on your transition to the other side as well, so you can work on that skill of flipping the dumbbell into that next side, or just working with both dumbbells to make sure you're comfortable with the loading. After that thruster though, in that same minute, what you have is some push-ups. So if you'd like to rock a few push-ups, we practice them in the work set, but this gives you a chance to practice them in how you're going to do them in the workout. So you can use them on an ottoman, chair, countertop, but we have 3 different variations on the floor. So from the floor, my hands are going to go just outside my shoulders. My feet are going to come together, going to pull my ribs and hips in, shoulders to the sky. I'm going to come slightly forward and down, keeping my elbows stacked and press. So my elbow stays stacked over top of my wrist. My other variation from this, I lower through my toes, keeping the tension, I drop my knees, press to the knee, up to the toe into that plank, and I continue. So I don't lose the tension in my midsection when I lower my knees to the floor. It's a very common thing to happen. As soon as I lower my knees down, the body goes, oh, okay, we have to stay engaged to that midsection, just like our humeral glide. It's a knee push-up drill. We need to make sure we can hold on to that so when we go to push, we're not pushing into a soft torso. Our last option is from the knees. So we get set up in that nice plank first. I lower down to my knee plank, and then I'm going to maintain that tension. Forward and down, and press. Forward and down, and press. And we're going to work through that nice movement, nice and clean, keeping those elbows stacked over the wrist. So if I was in my plank position, my elbows are going to be out on a 45-degree away from my body. Not necessarily right tight, not up here either, somewhere in between. And that's going to allow us to get more musculature to kind of stabilize the shoulder in that push. So if I was looking at you from a bird's eye view, you would be looking like an arrowhead. So you'd look like an arrow pointing whatever direction your head's pointing at. All right, so focus on that good position. It's going to give you the most opportunity to push with the most muscle you can, backing up that shoulder and those arms. So as a quick recap on this workout, on the minute, for 7 rounds, or desired rounds in the workout description. Minute number 1, you will do that Renegade Row for 20 seconds on one side, 20 seconds on the other side. You'll have some transition time. Minute number 2, you'll do 10 to 15 Pike Sit Up, or a number of Pike Sit Ups that's going to allow you to work for roughly, we'll say, no more than 45 to 50 seconds. I'd like you to have that 10-second transition moving into that next minute. Minute number 3, Renegade Row again. We have 20 seconds, and then you're going to move into minute number 4, which is going to be 10 thrusters, 5 and 5 or 10, and then 5 push-ups. And then you're going to come back to the top of the minute, or top of the round, start it all over again. So that last round, that last minute, we'll say, has 2 exercises to get done in that minute. So you're going to have to move nice and smooth to get them done efficiently. It's going to be a tough little work set, you guys, but I have faith and believe you guys will rock this one. As always, everyone, please rock this. Work for safety, work for quality, and have some fun with this one and crush it. I'm looking forward to hearing about this work set, how you like the rows, all that good stuff. Stay tuned for another fun little work set tomorrow. We got some more endurance strength coming at you. But until then, have a great day, and we'll see you very soon. Bye, you guys.